This video is not based on real events and is purely for entertainment. No intent to insult, misrepresent, or alter history. You know, life has a way of throwing unexpected variables into your equation. One moment, you're designing the future, and the next, your phone rings, unknown number. No one has this number. No one should. And yet, against all logic, I pick up. A familiar voice crackles through the line. Kim Jong. Elon, he says, his voice calm, but laced with something off. I hear you can travel through time. I don't respond immediately. A moment of silence. A moment to process the absurdity. And I want to see Genghis Khan, he continues. Not read about him, not watch documentaries. I need to stand before him, look him in the eyes. I lean back, staring at the ceiling. And why, exactly, do you think this is a good idea? Kim exhales sharply. I don't feel comfortable until I know if he was truly the legend they say he was. There are many things I could say, but some men are immovable objects, and I don't have the time to be an unstoppable force today. So, I give him the coordinates. A cave, North Korea. I had already opened a portal there, an experiment, a test of possibilities. Never meant for this. Go there, I say, step through, but remember, the past doesn't play by the rules of the future. The line clicks, he's gone, and just like that, history is about to get a visitor it never saw coming. History doesn't repeat itself, but sometimes it gets visitors. Before stepping into the unknown, Kim Jong-un does what any ruler with absolute power would do. He leaves instructions. Then, without another word, he turns, his steps echoing through the vast, empty halls of the presidential palace. But there's something else. A weight in his pocket. A box. Small, unassuming, yet carrying a presence heavy enough to pull the future into its orbit. Whatever it is, he guards it with his life. The journey to the cave is silent. A few guards follow, watching, waiting. They don't ask questions. Men like Kim Jong-un don't entertain questions. When they reach the cave, he doesn't hesitate. Go back to the palace, he orders. I go alone from here. The guards glance at each other. They hesitate for only a second, then nod and leave. None of them ask what's inside the cave. Some doors, once opened, are best left unexplored. And then, he steps forward. Inside, the air is thick, humid, dense, buzzing with a presence that doesn't belong to this century. Before him, the portal hums, a swirling distortion of reality itself. Time is a river, and this is a doorway to its past. Kim doesn't hesitate. He steps through. Darkness engulfs him. Silence, a void without time. Then, light, the smell of raw earth, of horses, of open plains, the sound of the wind cutting through an endless sea of grass. He blinks. Yurt tents dot the horizon, smoke rising lazily from their centers. The sun burns red in the distance. He is no longer in North Korea. This is Mongolia, the 13th century, the era of Genghis Khan, and the game has just begun. Time doesn't welcome intruders, and neither do warriors. The moment Kim steps onto the Mongolian plains, a cry erupts from the camp. A spy! Among us! A spy! Hardened soldiers, faces carved by war and wind, surround him in an instant. Their hands grip weapons that have tasted blood more times than they can count. Kim doesn't flinch. He has lived his whole life under the weight of power. Then, the crowd parts. From the largest tent, he emerges. Genghis Khan, a figure of history, of legend. Yet here, he is flesh and blood. A man, not a myth. His eyes scan Kim, not with suspicion, but with something else. Understanding, curiosity. There is no immediate aggression, no wild accusations. Instead, with a mere gesture of his hand, he commands his soldiers. Post him. No interrogation, no chains, no threats, just hospitality. Kim is taken to a large tent where he is seated and served food. He studies his surroundings. The men laugh, eat, speak in tongues he doesn't fully understand. But one thing is clear. This is not the barbaric empire history paints it to be. This is a society, a living, breathing culture. Then, Genghis himself enters. He sits across from Kim. For a moment, silence. Kim watches him. The man before him is not a ruthless brute. He is disciplined, precise, and something far more dangerous than expected, a thinker. "You are far from home," Genghis finally says, his Mongolian dialect thick but fluent. Kim nods. "I am. Do you seek war?" Kim smirks slightly. "I seek understanding." Genghis studies him, then nods approvingly. The conversation is brief but revealing. This man, this conqueror, doesn't rule through fear alone. He respects intelligence and he welcomes cultures. He is not just a warrior. He is an architect of civilization. But time waits for no man. Genghis rises. His expression shifts. The air in the tent changes. It is time for war. Outside, the camp erupts into movement. Horses are saddled, and weapons are distributed, and orders are shouted. Kim steps outside, watching as Genghis prepares to march his army forward, eyes burning with ambition that knows no limits. Before leaving, Genghis makes one thing clear. "You will stay here until we return." And just like that, he is gone. But Kim is not one to sit idly by. Left alone in the Mongol tents, he moves carefully, his eyes scanning for anything of value. And then, hidden beneath layers of furs and scrolls, he finds them. Military manuscripts and strategy maps. The mind of a conqueror laid bare. The brilliance of a man who forged one of the largest empire in human history. Kim studies them, fascinated, turning page after page. Then, footsteps. The warriors have returned. Genghis steps into his tent, and his gaze sweeps the room. The air shifts slightly. Something is different. Someone has been here. Someone has touched what should have remained untouched. But he says nothing. For now. History is a dangerous place, and those who tamper with it rarely return unscathed. Kim Jong-un stands before Genghis Khan, watching as the great leader's eyes burn with something unreadable. Respect? Judgment? A test? "Come," Genghis says. "There is something I want you to see." With no choice but to comply, Kim follows. They ride across the vast plains, the wind howling, the sky stretched endlessly above them. The Mongols do not fear the unknown. They conquer it. As they travel, Genghis tells a story of betrayal. "A man once sat at my table, ate my food, and drank from my cup. He called me friend. Then he whispered in the ears of my enemies." Kim listens, unmoved. "Did you kill him?" he asks. Genghis looks ahead, his expression never changing. "I did more than that." Kim does not ask for details. He does not need to. Cruel, but fair. That is the law of the steppes. By the time they return to the tents, the air has changed. Soldiers are assembled, and eyes flick toward Kim. The tension is thick, suffocating. Then, Genghis steps forward and raises his voice. A great empire is not built on trust alone. It is built on loyalty. His soldiers remain silent because they know what comes next. Genghis turns, locking eyes with Kim. "And those who betray that loyalty..." He nods. Before Kim can react, warriors rush forward. His arms are seized and his breath quickens. A cage is brought forward. "You read my manuscripts," Genghis says. "You peered into secrets that were not yours. Spying in my empire is punished by death." Kim struggles, rage filling his veins. "I am not your subject." Genghis does not flinch. "No, you are a lesson." The cage door slams shut and the soldiers step back. Kim is trapped. His mind races and his breath shallow. No one puts me in a cage. No one. His hand moves to his pocket. The black box. His ace. His power. His secret weapon. His thumb hovers over the button, one press, and this entire empire, this so-called great leader, will be nothing but dust in the wind. And then, a roar, a surge of energy. The time portal rips open. A force beyond his control pulls him in, drags him away. The Mongols watch, stunned as reality itself bends, swallowing the strange man whole. The cage rattles violently, but before anyone can react, Kim is gone. A blinding flash, a deafening hum. The air crackles with raw energy, and then he crashes onto the cold cave floor. Kim gasps for breath, his body trembling. His hands claw at the dirt, his mind reeling. He's back in North Korea, back in the cave where it all started. The black box is still clutched in his fist, his thumb inches away from pressing the button. For a moment, he doesn't move. Then slowly, he stands, glancing at the swirling portal behind him as it flickers, and then vanishes. Gone. I watch the monitors, my hands gripping the edge of the console. The machine groans, steam hissing from its circuits. The connection is severed. I exhale. A disaster was about to happen, and I just barely stopped it. But history has a long memory, and some doors, once opened, never truly close.